Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar Optimizing Urban Lighting Networks with LoRaWAN, a key enabler for scalable smart city services. My name is Jan-Philipp Exner from Zenner, and I welcome you here in the LoRa Alliance webinar sessions. As you can see in our next slide, for little housekeeping points, the webinar will be recorded and will be made available to our resource part on the website. And you can enter your questions during all of the webinar to our Q&A formula so that we can put on them in the end of our 3 talks together for a final discussion. So besides the housekeeping, the major question we are dealing today is smart street lighting. And we do have to question ourselves, why is this such a crucial issue for smart cities? And there are basically 4 major reasons. First of the point is the energy saving point, that smart street lighting lampposts can just save energy because they just are there on bright when they need to be. And this is also a point which pays into the enhanced safety, because you can enlighten, if it's crucial, the specific locations. And what is especially for infrastructure providers very important, that you can retrofit with the LoRaWAN solutions old existing networks, and you can induce much more efficiency. And besides all of those, I would say, economical point of perspective, from an environmental point of perspective, it's very crucial to see that you can avoid light pollution by just dimming them in the way just that they are on where they need to be, and that they are just not present as lightning polluting points when they're not to be. So those are 4 major reasons why street lightings are crucial for smart cities. And you can see on the next slide, there was by Beecham research done by last year, November, October, a report about crucial aspects for smart cities. And they were also pointing out why not just only LoRaWAN, but also street lighting is very important. And as you can see, it's just not the technical aspects here. As you can see, long range, low power, low cost, etc. You're all aware of it, but a crucial point is the ecosystem that you have here. Smart street lightings are is a use case which has usually a very good return of investment. But if you see the much broader perspective, this also enables just much more efficiencies, and this is very crucial for a lot of infrastructure providers and cities. And as you can see in the next slide, you see the street lighting in a glance, but as you can see the brighter picture, especially when it comes to LoRaWAN, the ecosystem that enables much more use case pays out in the whole efficiency of the network, because you can do street lighting, you can do other use cases, but you will later see also where my colleagues will present that you usually start with a good use case, where smart street lighting is a very good example. But then if you get your first step done, it just enables you to get more and more steps, and then your journey to the successful smart city will be very successful. You can see on the next slide, I just want to give, before my colleagues come on to their practical examples, also one very good example from our perspective, because we have one of our customers for Zenner, which is the Community Marsh in Luxembourg, and it's quite a small city with just roughly 10,000 inhabitants. But the crucial point is that those communities, when you can see in the next click with the number of inhabitants, are very, in a way, are a class of communities and villages which are very common in all over Europe. And you can see that here, just such a small community in terms of LoRaWAN has 10,000 inhabitants, but already almost 3,000 LoRaWAN sensors covering the area with 11 gateways and 6 use cases. And you can see when you're on the next click that the use cases ranging from metering, flood detection, leakage detection, water pipe relocation, that there are many use cases. But one of the crucial use cases in this example is the smart street lighting. If you can see on the next click that this small village just covers the whole, more or less the whole area with 40 of technical solution called Greenbox. You will later on also hear something about it with LoRaWAN, that they have a combination of an astro sensor and light detection, and just make with this step their whole network very efficient, very smart, and we're setting this in the whole LoRaWAN strategy of the whole community. But this is a great example, and you will just hear much more about the potentials of LoRaWAN, especially with the use case of smart street lighting in the next slides. So what we have today, as I said, my name is Jan-Philipp Exner. I'm Vice Chair for the work group Smart City and Smart Building. We have as a first talk Robert Fajani from the company Tectelic, a second one Zdenko Marinic from Xlogic, and then as a final conclusion, more or less, Robert Brooks from IoT shop Alpha Omega Technology. So thanks to you guys to be part of this webinar. I'm also looking forward to your talks, and I'm now handing over the virtual microphone to Robert Fajani.
Thank you, Jean-Philippe. So good morning, good afternoon, and thank you for joining the webinar today. So my name is Robert, and I am Head of Sales and Business Development. I'm based in Paris, and I have a long history in telecommunication and data communication business. So let's start about why the cities choose LoRaWAN street lighting. So first of all, LoRaWAN enables quick and low-cost deployment by eliminating trenching and cabling. So it's really important. It's a wireless technology, easy to use. Second one, LoRaWAN, it's low power, two-way secure communication, and very important in smart city application. So this kind of communication, you can control both way your lighting system, and this is key on this kind of application. So LoRaWAN is an open standard and support additional smart city application, providing a quick return on investments. If I take some example in France, there is cities that start to deploy the smart lighting, and after that, they're moving for the deep indoor for the smart metering application, for instance. So with the LoRaWAN technology, you can address a full panel for application. Let's see the architecture of the smart lighting application. So slide number 2. This is a typical application that it's used for the smart lighting, but it can be used for any kind of application based on LoRa. So you have, first of all, you have the smart light controller, that it's a sensor. This sensor, it's managing the lights and can get additional information like temperature or humidities that can be sent to the gateway. Then you have the controller is communicating wirelessly with the LoRaWAN gateways. The LoRaWAN gateways collect all the data and securely transfer the data to the cloud-based network server. The LNS manages all the communication and coordinates the device control and authentication. Then you will have your application for the real-time monitoring, the alert detection, and the system optimization. So this kind of architecture, it's really simple. So you have the sensor, the gateway, the LoRa network server, and the application. Based on that one, you can imagine a lot of application. We talked today about the smart lighting, but again, there is a lot of application that can follow this kind of architecture. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the gateway right now. So the gateways is of course really important. The gateway collects all the data, and if the gateway fails, the complete system will be down. So you need a carrier class type of gateways to make sure that you have a continuous data flow from the sensor to the LNS without packet loss. The location of the gateway is really important as well. This placement will define your network coverage, eliminating the dead zone or the white zone as well. So Tectelic is really pushing for the quality from the start and design to last. Investing in high-quality gateways will reduce the risk, lower the maintenance cost, and protect your infrastructure investments. This is what we call the cost of ownership. So this is really important to start with a gateway you can trust, to send the data to the LNS and to the application server. Next slide, please. We can see the application beyond the street lighting. So the same LoRaWAN network and gateways can address multiple smart city applications like waste management, outdoor air quality, smart metering, parking management, and other cold chain management, green park, asset tracking. I mean, there is multiple applications that you can imagine into the smart city. So the same LoRaWAN infrastructure will reduce the need for separate network, simplifying the deployment and the maintenance, maximizing the value of your infrastructure investment. So only one network can address all your applications for the smart cities. Next slide. And this is a real case that we have done with Zenko from XLogic. This is in Gradiška, the smart lighting deployment. So in that city, we deploy 25 Kona Macro. The Kona Macro, it's a 16-channel gateways, including a filter, a Kona filter that will reject all the interference that you can find to the smart city. So these 25 gateways address 2,500 smart light sensor all over the city. So, you know, one gateway will manage 100 smart lights. Of course, we can manage more than this, but here, you know, we have some redundancy to make sure that all the smart lights are really well covered. So with this kind of network, the city achieves instant centralized remote control and monitoring, and has realized a significant energy and cost saving with optimized lighting schedules. Another area of saving was the maintenance needs, which drop due to the continuous real-time feedback and proactive alerts enabled by the network. So I will close the presentation right now by highlighting the fact that the LoRaWAN infrastructure is the technology of choice for the digitalization of the cities, from outdoor smart lighting to deep indoor smart metering application. So start with quality, design to last. This is really the key point for the LoRa network. And right now, I want to pass the next slide to Zenko from XLogic. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zdenko, and also welcome you to this webinar. I am the CEO and co-founder of the company XLogic. XLogic, we do hardware development, embedded software development, application software development in the IoT area. And what I'm going to talk about in this webinar is one of the first smart city projects that were done in our region. So they were exactly in Gradiška, Bosnia and Herzegovina. I will give you some basic overview information. This was deployed in autumn 2023. The LoRaWAN network server is a chirp stack, which is provided also by the local partner in Bosnia. Robert already mentioned the fact that there were 25 tectonic Kona macro gateways to cover the area. XLogic provided 2,700 units, and the IoT platform for monitoring and visualization is also provided by the local partner. What are the challenges about the project? So this was one of the first big smart lighting projects for XLogic, and we had some experience in smart lighting, but we have never deployed such a big project for us. And in 2023, we got the order in July, and we delivered everything in September. And, you know, always take into account that this is the holiday period. Most of the time we managed do it everything on time and to deliver it. Later on, we had some LoRaWAN signal coverage issues, which was some of the parts were actually maybe they were in the trees, in the woods, so the LoRaWAN signal could not cope with that. So we had some issues on that. We also overpassed this. The second point, which was really important, is to educate the end client about LoRaWAN benefits and restrictions, because most of the people that are right now using LoRaWAN, when you say wireless, everything is associated with Wi-Fi connection, and they want to have the same performance as they have the same network performance as they have in their households, which is not why LoRaWAN is intended. So, and the last one, it would really help what we have right now developed. If we had a firmware update, this would really help, because you have to also know that lifting up with a crane, just installing and LoRaWAN Jaga controller costs more than Jaga controller itself, and you have to do it maybe not 2,000 times, but many times. Then it really FOTA is something that is really helpful in this case. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah. I have here some of the pictures where you can see how the controller looks like. It's a really small one, and how it looks like on the lamp. And also you can see the if you take a look on the lamps, you will see, if you look closely, you will recognize that which lamp is a smart one. And also I have on my next slide, I have a short, okay, now it's working. Yes, you see it in the night. So it's really when you drive, every time I drive beneath in Gradiš, I feel very proud that we participated in such project. And what I want always to mention in my next slide, I have a short video. We have literally smart street lighting in our hands. Could you please run it? You will see it now when it's some kind of magic happens. Yeah, this was one of the villages next to Gradiš covered smart city. Street lighting is deployed. I would like to thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. And I will pass it through to my colleague Robert from IoT Shop.
Yeah, thank you so much, Zdenko. With all that theoretical knowledge now ahead, we were thinking, what if we as a company ourselves working in LoRaWAN, what if we turned a whole village where we hosted in Thuringia into an actually smart village? So welcome to the smart village from Thuringia in Germany. You see a lot of timber houses, a very typical German village. I think it's about 500 people living there, so quite small, but still we managed to implement those use cases, and that's kind of what we're known for. My name is Robert, and I'm from the IoT Shop, a well-known brand in the LoRaWAN space, because one of the differentiators that we have is we actually test everything. I can actually prove that. I have devices laying around here in my office while I'm talking. So we look at everything that we're doing, and we tested the whole hypothesis of how does a village efficiently convert to a smart village. So next slide, please. After welcoming you, here's the starting line where we started, and that is actually, we had wires in the ground. I think Robert mentioned it earlier. So before we came in with this idea of making everything digital and modern, there was already infrastructure in place, right? So there were lights and there were actually relays that controlled the lights. And so that's basically where you start in any given city. And what you want to do is to evaluate to see what you actually have there, because sometimes it can be that every single lamp on the street is actually controlled. Sometimes it's strings of lamps pack together that you can control with a single relay. But basically that's the first step in every project, right? Look at what you have. And at the time, we already had LoRaWAN enabled because obviously we were into the technology. So we had a gateway on our company roof and the whole city had LoRaWAN. But there weren't so many use cases yet. So next slide, please. The first thing we did after evaluation was actually picking the right light bulbs. So there's options, and the most energy saving actually comes from changing old lighting to new lighting. So basically going from something like fluorescent to LED light bulbs, right? But there's options. And so the first thing we actually did with LoRaWAN was to integrate the decision of the people living there in what they actually wanted to see. So we had a little device that you can see here, placed around some samples that we ordered, and we picked out a few lampposts and we exchanged them with the new posts. And there was like a little device that you could vote on with green, I like this, yellow, I'm unsure, and red obviously being I don't like it at all. So that is also something that smart lighting brought to this village, which is participation. And with that out of the way, we knew, okay, this one had very positive reviews. So people liked how the light looked and they liked how the lamp looked, because you have to keep into account as well, we're talking about a city and it has a certain feel. And if you're just putting modern lighting into a very old timber framed wooden area, it can look very awkward. So we found our right light at the beginning. Next slide, please. And there's also a first lesson learned. So for anyone doing this, if you're trying to pick out your lighting and basically go to the next step and install it, here's the 3 things that I would like you to take away. And the first thing is definitely have a plan and label everything you do. We had some issues with labeling, and so some controllers ended up in the wrong spaces and we had to redo them basically because we couldn't reach them afterwards. Because we had the wrong addresses. So label everything and test it out. That's the next tip. And the last one is definitely involve the people living there. Like there's a lot of projects where a city will just put on a project and just do it and basically decide with 3 or 4 people. But especially with LoRaWAN, where we can deploy battery sensors, also like devices that people can vote on, there is the option to participate, to have people work with you on something that they're then attached to as well. So it's a win-win situation. Next slide, please. Okay, so the whole use case is basically, we've shown it before. We want to save energy, we want better control of our lighting, and we want to have a safe infrastructure, because after all, we don't light cities to make them look beautiful. We light them to secure people going home late at night, for cars driving by, basically to save our citizens from getting harmed. And that is something to keep in mind. It's a service to the citizens itself. So that is the whole application. And with the addition of actually controlling the lights individually, you can save up to 20 to 30% of the energy costs. But like I said, the biggest savings come from actually replacing the light bulbs to modern technology. And then you can get another 20 to 30% with actually controlling them smartly. And yeah, we've done that with a solution which is now called ortsbeleuchtung.de, which is just German for lighting the city. And we're using the green box by Clever City, which is a dual relay controller that has LoRaWAN up and down links, so we can send something to the box, and also the boxes report back to us if the light is working and everything is all right. Later on, we also added a few Saga controllers right there, and now we had a beautiful street lighting controlled by LoRaWAN in this small village. And yeah, if somebody wants to demo it, definitely head to the reference link here. We have a few sample pictures and also are happy to showcase this whole solution. But we didn't stop there. Next slide, please. So first off, we thought about what about if we control the lights to save even more energy by putting motion sensors on there? And it's actually a bad idea, and I explained to you why. The lesson that we learned here is that if you change something in traffic, it can be very distracting, right? So we use flashing lights as a signal to tell you, hey, something isn't right. And that is also why I would not recommend to change the street lighting in a very significant way. For example, motion control it like in a horror film where the main character comes in and there goes chung, 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 one light after another. Don't do that. It's very scary for people. What you can do is basically have a little range about 2 to a maximum of 5% difference that you can tune it up and down if there's somebody using, for example, a bike lane, or you want to have it in a very unbusy part of the city. But generally speaking, it's still a service to the citizens, so don't do this too much. Next slide, please. Don't scare your citizens. Yeah, we took it to another step, and actually after we had ortsbeleuchtung.de, which is a service to mostly German cities, they requested, hey, we want more control. And so what we're currently working on is an app. This is the light version. Next slide, please. And you can also see that we also have a dark version as well for all of our IT friends and people who don't like to be blinded by their phone. Basically what you can do, control different lights, you can see where they are, and you can also see if there's alarms going off. So if you maybe need to replace a light bulb, or in some cases, a car has hit one of the light poles, it's also a reason why they would send an alarm as well. The next slide, please. So, if you take it a step further, because I talked about participation, right? And we wanted to have it integrated into the village itself. And now you can actually do something because there's a little cross on the hill. And what the people have done in the village is actually put a lighting controller on the light on that cross as well. So what you can do now is to go to the mayor when you have like a round birthday, you're turning 30, 40, 50, or even 80, and you can tell them, hey, it's my round birthday, please light the cross. And that's actually even creating a little culture experience in the city itself, which is powered by LoRaWAN. So they can now control the lighting. For example, if there's a festivity of some kind and they want to have the light on longer, that is something they can easily do by themselves. So by having smart street lighting, this village not only is saving power, but also they're getting back their autonomy because they can now decide how to use that. And that is one of the very beautiful use cases that I brought for lighting. But let me go over the last few slides with the other applications that we actually installed there. The next slide, please. And yeah, we also have hyperlocal weather stations. That is really useful if you, for example, have claims against an insurance because there was heavy rainstorms. And most of the time, if you're looking at government weather data, it's very sparsely generated and reported. So if you have something very local to your village, you can actually go to your insurance and say, hey, we actually had an incident here and we can prove that it was really a weather related thing. Because I heard of a story that a city actually had issues with their insurance because they didn't believe that there was like a hailstorm, but according to the local data, there definitely was a weather event. But if you looked at the government data, it was so far away that it didn't happen there. So that's just one of the things. We also have a dashboard that you can look at on smartienfeld.de. That's where the hyperlink is heading to. And the next slide, please. Because there's so much more you can actually do with weather data. You can share it to your farmers, for example, or you can install even more use cases. And there's another one we have. You see, this is our headquarters in Smartienfeld, where also our logistics are happening. And one thing we did there is actually have a traffic camera, and we're counting not only the traffic itself, but the amount of trucks, cars, bicycles, and bikes and buses that are going by. So basically, we have a little camera. It's running an AI edge server on it, and it's determining who's using the street here. Because it's a very small city, the main street is located right beside the headquarters here, and so we can provide that data to the actual mayor so they can do street maintenance, for example. But also we actually monitor our parking space with it as well. If you want to experience that as well, there's a hyperlink on it. But heading to the next slide here. Yeah, there's also something that you can do in a very small location like a village, which is very helpful downstream, because as you can see here, if the water would be rising double or triple the amount, we wouldn't be affected that much, right? But if you imagine a major river going 2 times or 3 times of its usual water level, that is scary as hell. And actually, by by reporting your values from your local village to the next city that is affected by the little stream that is going by you, you can help with flood prevention. That is something we do as well. So we basically get the water levels, we know the water speeds, and we know the profile of the river, and therefore we can determine how much water is going downstream, and we can put out warnings early to anyone affected downstream as well. Again, we have a dashboard if you want to experience that as well, but I think we're almost at the end of it. So next slide, please. Yeah. The short summary for everything that we saw today is the digital wireless infrastructure enables not only villages, but every basically a community, every city and towns, if, and that's the three big ifs, if you engage with your locals and actually listen to what they're saying and ask them about it, then if you listen for real demands, like there's so many use cases in the LoRa infrastructure and ecosystem that you have to choose what is fitting to your use case, to your community especially. And then basically you can grow step by step. So I would advise not to do everything at once, but make a single project, get to know the technology, and then step into the next one and slowly grow step by step. In other words, the next slide, and you can just click through, you know, do not decide without the actual users of the system. You should never do that. Then do not assume what they value and what the actual value is, but rather ask and determine it. And then don't build everything at once. You can go slowly and step by step. And that's basically what we do at IoT Shop. It was an honor to be here for the LoRa Alliance. And Jan-Philipp, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Robert. I think with the last slide, why choose LoRaWAN? I think the points you're mentioning is very good. You're also highlighting the technological point, as all of you did. But it's not only just about the technology; it's about the ecosystem, not in terms of technology, but also the community itself. And so this is also one of the things the LoRa Alliance is doing. We're just here working on the LoRaWAN issue since roughly 10 years. And it's beside the technologies and of course the certified devices, but we do want to establish this community. This is why we also make this webinars. This is why we encourage ourselves within the work group, and this is why we can also offer this very good webinar also with the different topics to our users, to our colleagues here. And I like always being the host of those sessions because you're always much more smarter than at the beginning of the webinar. When you cannot go to the next slide, right, we are now going to our Q&A session there. So you all, and you later on can also during the discussion go get on some questions or some points to our Q&A session. We are now in a way setting up together, collecting some things. So just give us some seconds and we will be back in a short time to prepare the first questions, and yeah, will enable you also to bring on some other things for a fruitful discussion afterwards. So see you soon. So, well, there were a bunch of interesting questions coming in from the audience. Thanks a lot from my side and also on behalf of my colleagues here. We had 3 very interesting talks, and I don't want to waste that much time. I just jump directly towards the question. The first question coming in was regarding LoRaWAN generally about what kind of arguments you can find for LoRaWAN and what is the way to convince the partners, the utilities. Well, what we say generally, what I say generally, that LoRaWAN is more or less a very good backbone for the IoT infrastructure because the cost effectiveness is very good, and especially the ecosystem for all comes from sensors, gateways, IoT platforms is very, very wide, very broad. And regarding security issues, it's in 128 AES encryption mode. So this is state of the art in terms of the technology. But I guess there was Robert having also an argument about the security things you want to share with you.
Yeah, if I haven't mentioned it already, but we mentioned it a lot of times, and that is that the city of Hamburg actually switched to LoRaWAN because it was more secure than the system they had before. The other one got hacked, and they even managed to blow out some power transformers by just modulating over the street lighting, because it was like a radio signal. They could just get in there and send something themselves. And what you hear a lot of times in LoRaWAN is that people compare it to LoRa, and that is a very important distinction. LoRa is like free for all. There's makers doing their own devices, but we're talking about LoRaWAN, and this is actually a protocol developed that is checking the packet integrity, right? We have different measures to detect if somebody is trying to inject a message and then basically just reject everything that is not the traffic coming from the sensors. Then we have the encryption of the actual sensor itself. So even though everybody can receive LoRaWAN messages, not everyone can decode them. So there's a lot of layers actually, and that is what the LoRa Alliance brings to LoRa and makes it so that it is LoRaWAN after that. So most of the time it's actually the choice for people wanting to go more into security, wanting to basically have a wireless system that has all the protocols that you would expect in like a usual server setting.
Thank you, Robert. Coming to the second question, this is about the type of antenna which has been used. I would pass this question to our second Robert here in the webinar from Tectalic. So,
thank you. So in this kind of application, type of antenna like 6, 8 dBm or even 10.5 dBm can make the work. In terms of interference, of course, more the antenna is sensitive, more you will get some interference. In that case, with the Kona macro, you have inside the cavity filter, and the cavity filter will reject all the interference. So, I mean, to summarize the answer, you can use 6, 8, 10.5 dBm, and inside with the cavity filter, you will remove all the interference. So that's the way we manage it.
okay, thanks a lot, Robert. We also have another question coming in, which wants to have some more information about the X-Logic sensor. So, Zdenko, I'll pass this one for you to provide more information about these issues.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and hi, Chris. Thank you for the question. The FLOTA feature, we will launch it within this quarter. So the sensor that you got is not capable of FLOTA, but we are making our proprietary firmware. So this will be done on the STM32, which you already have. So there will be no hardware updates on the component, only firmware update.
And maybe just in addition to that, there was also the question regarding the coverage of the square kilometers for this deployment you had in Bosnia. Could you also say some words about it?
Yes. Okay. This is the Gradiška is located in the north part of Bosnia, which is bordering in Croatia. And this is important to mention. The landscape is completely flat, so there are no mountains, so it's really plain, and we are covering somewhere in radius of 30 kilometers. So this would say in square miles a little less than 3,000 kilometers squared. So this is the area covered with the LoRaWAN gateways.
Okay, thank you. We have another question coming from Mark, who is asking about the management, who is doing the LoRa network server management. So technically, the good thing is about this issue that all of those units, like the city, utility provider, even the vendor or a connectivity provider, can act as a as the one who is managing the LoRa network server. From our use case that I was just presenting in a slide, it was the community, but we know in Germany a lot of utilities doing this as their understanding of being an infrastructure provider. But specifically in your case, Robert, can you say some words about the smart infield issue?
Yeah, surely. We have a very specific situation where we as a company actually are taking part in the infrastructure hosting of that village. So in our case, in Martinfeld, we are hosting it because we have a lot of clients that also have instances with us. So it was just another instance for us as a company. But like Jan-Philipp said absolutely correctly, anybody could do it. And I even proved it in the village that I live in. I'm managing it myself as a non-profit organization as well. So it is possible in various tiers, in various ways to actually handle that.
Okay, and just maybe also kind of attached to this question, there was the issue if the LoRaWAN isn't too slow to support so-called real-time application. And I know in the LoRaWAN business, real-time is a very flexible word, but how do you deal with this issue?
We don't is the answer. So it's actually right. It is too slow to have real-time applications if we're talking milliseconds. If we're talking seconds, like 10, 15, up to a minute, it is actually possible to use LoRaWAN as well. Otherwise, door sensors wouldn't make sense at all, right? There is applications where you have like motion controlled systems that trigger a light in a building, but especially for cars outside, like I said, we didn't do it because of the security concerns that we had and the experience that it's strange and it's actually distracting, but it would be possible with LoRaWAN, and there's plenty of applications that actually use, let's call it real time, as in we're talking to each other and you're waiting for my response, right? So that is kind of the expectation from a usual talk that you have or a discussion with a coworker. That is the response time of LoRaWAN as well, if you have to imagine it. It's not like milliseconds computer cable plugged in reaction time, but it is possible, and a lot of our clients actually use it to trigger certain routines.
And just maybe in addition, you have to think about that if the device does an on-device edge analytics of the certain situation, it can act very fast. The question is, does the signal has to go to the LoRa network server and back, and or do you just want to have a very real-time reaction on some circumstances, but you want to have your LoRaWAN signal for monitoring these issues? So this is depends on the use case, and again, the wide ecosystem of LoRaWAN provides many possibilities to also answer these questions. Just see also there are a couple of questions.
Yes, Jan, if I could just add on this, maybe I know the possibilities. So the LoRaWAN is good for running profiles, but you can also have like something like a peer sensor which indicates the motion, and it can dim it on the profile as well. So you don't need to communicate. You don't need to have the communication to the LoRaWAN network server and back. So you can just done it locally. So it is possible. It's just, the question is in the end, do you like to see, let's say, maybe flashing or so on? Would it be interesting for some municipalities or not? It can also confuse. It can also make a lot of confusement in the end.
Okay, yeah, thanks also for adding those points. Maybe two questions coming up I want to combine, which is about the smart lighting software integration with other municipal services or applications, and then also in accordance to this, how many use cases in total were in Martinfeld applied?
Okay, let's start with the second one. It's way easier. This is just a guesstimate because on a daily basis, we create new use cases. We test new devices at IoT Shop. So most of what we're selling is actually tested in a real world application. And we have several testing, basically testing lanes. For example, there's like a weather station hill where we have more than 9 weather stations running in parallel. So to answer that, it's about 50 use cases, but also you have to take into account that we're not only testing a single sensor, but most of the time in one of those verticals, one use case is one vertical, for example, weather stations, we have multiple devices as well. So in Martinfeld, it's about 50 right now, but it's constantly growing. And also I'm deploying a lot of devices in my work time as well here in the village where I live. So I would say combined with every technician that we have roughly over 100 use cases that we're running right now. So, but that's where we come from. We actually are very into the technology and use it on a daily basis. Second question is a little bit harder. So lighting software integrated with other municipality applications. As far as I know, there is only a dashboard and the app. So basically that's the only connection to any other users. And there's nothing such as traffic engineering. I don't think we even have a what is called a traffic light. There's no controlling in that village or anything like that. So basically, we performed the integrations, and the integrations were mostly going to how do we display it on the app. So honestly, that's the biggest part that we're doing with integrations there. It would be possible to basically use anything. You can also use MQTT. You can plug it into your home assistant if you want to, right? So again, there's a lot of range that you can do after you have collected it on your local networks, LoRaWAN network server. So there's basically no limit.
Yeah, thank you. There is a more technical question regarding the smart lighting use case itself. I mean, what the controller is managing and what does the sensor detect. What I can say about the question of retrofitting, that this is a huge advantage of the things we were presenting here, because there can be the pole and the Strangsteuerung, or the section unit connection by retrofitting, but is somebody willing to dig deep more into the technical aspects about the retrofitting here?
Yeah, what I can say is that today and in the last couple of years, all the street lights that are being installed have to have the option they have to have the Jaga socket where you can plug in Jaga smart lighting controller. So basically, yeah, all the lamps. This is I think EU. No, I think I know this is EU regulated. So basically, whatever you need, you have the street light going on in last couple of years, it can be easily retrofitted to be a smart lighting.
Also, in addition to that, a very specific thing about Germany, there is still villages and cities in Germany that run old lamps that don't have the Saga controller yet. So, but as you just stated, anyway, if you need to retrofit, you also probably need to update your lighting as well. So there is no way around it right now. So for most cities, it makes no sense to just retrofit something, because they actually would have to replace the lighting itself. So if it's too old and needs replacement, you have to replace it anyway. And anything else should have the Saga controller.
Yeah. Thank
but
you.
also in our solution, I think we used some of the lighting poles. We have like a relay controlling it, so that it's actually not controlled by the Saga controller. That's for the newer ones. There were a few lights, for example, the one on the hill for the birthday. That is just a relay that we're controlling there. So again, the range is very broad, but I totally agree with Zdenko that if you have Saga, go for it.
Then another question, very specific about the funding situation in Germany. Well, there are different ways. I know from Germany that if you are, as a city, were a member of the Modellprojekt Smart City funding project, there were ways also to get your light or to smarten your street light network with your existing LoRa network by this federal funding system. Again, then on the deeper level, there are many national, no, not federal, the German federal station, and then on the national federal state level, also different funding programs where they're, where coming from, but there was in Hessen and Baden-Württemberg some funding programs, either detecting directly to the street light network or more broader ones where you can in a way fit the street light system into it. Maybe also Robert, you can add something from your perspective.
Yeah, it's a good point that you have there, because if you're asking for funding, it highly depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for like 80% funding with no, basically that you don't have to pay it back, or is that something like a Darlehen, a credit basically. So there's a lot of things in the modalities, but also in the topics you can choose there. Like you rightly said, so if you go for energy management, for example, and you want to install like an energy monitoring system in your city or village, you could probably fit a few of the devices into that. For example, the LoRaWAN system is a digital system, and it is required for modern lighting. And so most of the funding centered around energy monitoring or energy savings could be used for that. But on the other hand, streetlights are also infrastructure. And so it highly depends where you're located and what funds are available still. But if you need a place to go look or talk to somebody, every of those federal states has their own bank. So there's, for example, Baden-Württemberg Bank, or the IB Sachsen-Anhalt, or even the SAB, which is the Sächsische Aufbaubank. So every federal state has their own bank. You can talk to them, and they have trained people that can help you out there to find the right programs. So that would be the first step, to actually reach out and get informed about it there. Yeah, but there is a lot of stuff.
Yeah, great. There are still other questions coming in. So very general question about the opinion of the importance of certified LoRaWAN products. Well, there is Robert, you're nicking. you wanna jump in?
I mean, I guess everybody agrees that we're very glad there is a protocol that we follow. There is a worldwide identifiable DEF EUI, for example. It's a small thing, but anyone that ever tinkered around with creating their own LoRa sensor or their own system quickly notices that he is just reinventing everything that LoRaWAN already has out of necessity. So for my part, I'm very happy this exists. And as far as I know, it's not even it's not a very gatekept community. I think you all agree. Like if you think about industrial automation, for example, like standards in that direction are very hard to get into. But what we're seeing is actually a lot of new manufacturers coming into LoRaWAN. And so I suspect it's necessary. So my opinion is I want those protocols to be established. And especially if I need to onboard new sensors, I can rely on that and say, hey, this has a LoRa stamp on it, a LoRaWAN stamp on it. So I can trust it to have a certain quality level that I'm expecting, speaking from my shop perspective here, right? So I know I can onboard them, I know how they work, I know how to implement them, and that is already done. And if you look at products that don't have it and try to get into the market, it's very hard to sell them because they're very unharmonized is a word I would use. So I'm a big fan of it actually, and it is a very great ecosystem to work with easily and to expand on, and that is something that the LoRaWAN certification basically brings with it.
Yeah, it may sound like a very, so to say, unsexy point, but when it comes to mass rollouts, then it clearly pays out, definitely. Coming, Chris again wants to some more deeper information about the firmware over the air feature.
Yes. Hi, Chris again. Yes, the functionality cannot be updated by itself. In this case, you will have to send the controller back to us, and we will update the firmware. And from that moment, the photo feature will be available to you. So anyhow, this is right now. It's not backward compatible. So once we first need to launch the feature, and then we can do the upgrade. But it will not update itself once if it hasn't been implemented before.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe some from my colleagues can help with the next question regarding maritime IoT and how to overcover signal coverage challenges. I don't see the strict correlation towards the street lighting stuff between maritime IoT and our street lighting issues. Is somebody from your side? So maybe the Martin, here at this point, you can tell us the question afterwards that we can, or a little bit, give more information about what your purpose is from the question, because I can't, in a way, fit the right answer to this now. But the next one is clearly to Zdenko, the X-Logic Smart Lighting Controller. Is it Class C capable? And what about the Mac version?
Yes.
Go on.
Mac version, I need to check which one. Yeah, I need to check with the smarter guys in the company. So anyhow, but I would refer to the question before. We have also deployed our gateways. So I've come from Croatia, and you're probably, most of you are familiar that we have the Adriatic coast, which is really harsh environment. It's salty in the air. So anyhow, we have cities there. So anyhow, whenever you have a gateway, you can also introduce other smart city use cases also that are related to maritime. Maybe tracking of the, let's say, what we haven't done it, but we haven't done the project, but in Croatia, maybe they are tracking the fish ship, the fishermen ships. And the LoRaWAN, this is maritime IoT use case, yeah.
Right. Thanks for getting this connection. The next one is asking if there are solutions for standalone solar street lighting and monitoring of them. Well, generally said, LoRaWAN is a bidirectional protocol, and there are various kind of sub-sensors which you can, in a way, put in together to create a solution like this. But if it's, in a way, if this tailored solution is a really mass rollout appropriate solution, this is the other question. Are there, regarding the solar street lighting issues, some, in a way, fixed products that you can recommend from the group here?
There is a gateways with the solar panel, so we can, in that sense, we can provide that. We have the Kona Photon, and the Kona Photon can really reply to that question. So it's available today. Yeah.
If I understand our anonymous question here, then it is about standalone solar street lighting. So we have a mast, there is a solar panel on it and an LED. Probably from a perspective of the LoRaWAN sensor itself, it doesn't make any difference how it is powered. Because Zdenko, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Saga controller also powers the sensor as far as I'm aware. So as long as it has that, it is fine power-wise. And to check if the mast has been hit, there is most of the time there is a gyrometer on it. So if it actually is hit and it moves in a way, so you can get a notification about it. And by having a heartbeat, for example, from the sensor itself, you can also check if it's still available, if the signal is there. And power consumption, I honestly feel like there should be a separate sensor for sensing the power level. For example, there are ones to monitor battery levels, right? So I know, hey, for a solar street light, it's at 80%. And I would actually split that. So the one is actually controlling the light and is reporting back if the mast has been hit, and the other one would be to check the solar system itself, if the voltage is there, and also what the battery capacity is right now. And most of the time you can tie LoRaWAN sensors in there as well.
Great. And also, when we are just at the moment, right at the end of our webinar, deep in the technical issues, is there a mesh mode for the antennas possible?
I heard rumors. That is all I can say. I heard rumors about it. I haven't yet seen it because it's a very, it's the first thought you have if we're talking about street lighting, because obviously a mesh network would be really great for those applications. But right now I haven't seen that, at least not in real life yet. So from my perspective, I couldn't sell you anything that has this capability right now. But I know there is smarter people and engineers working on that because it's a very good idea.
Yeah. Taking a look to the clock, I have to say we're almost finished at the end of our time, so I want to take this opportunity and thanks Robert and Zdenko. Thanks a lot for your talks. It was a pleasure to have this webinar with you. Also, thank you, Jancy, for being in the back organizing this, and also the biggest thank you for the audience to spending this hour with us, to gave us your time, to also gave us this fruitful discussion. Then at the end, it is always a pleasure for us to have this. For my side, it was I like it also being the host of those webinars. So thanks a lot also personally from my side. A little call to action for the audience. Just you will receive a survey right at the end of the webinar. Just take some 1 or 2 minutes to get some of those questions from the survey. And of course, enjoy your day and enjoy the world of LoRaWAN and keep going implementing LoRaWAN solutions. So thanks a lot for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.